Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the TopFrag podcast. I'm your host, Brendan Shave. In episode 3, we discussed the WESG hotel conditions and what team houses can and should look like in the future for esports. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing a very specific team in the CSGO scene, one of the best in the world, SK Gaming. Now, SK Gaming, currently competing at WESG at the time I'm recording this, have lost to both Team Russia and Big in best of ones. Now, normally, I would say that these kind of results are just due to being best of ones and, aren't real signs of anything, right? But I do think we are potentially seeing an SK slump that we really haven't experienced before. Obviously, since the E-League Major, where they finished top 4, losing in the semifinals, they have seen a slight decline in form really since getting Bolts. If you remember, when they did pick up Bolts during the fall/summer, depending on how you look at it, of 2017, they had some pretty good results, right? They got first at Blast Series. They won the ESL Pro League Finals. But, since then, since the E-League Major of 2018, when they finished top 4, we really haven't seen them perform that well. At CS Summit, they finished third. Decent placing, considering the only two teams above them are Cloud9, who was fresh off a major win, and then, of course, Team Liquid as well, who had, a really good performance at this event specifically and definitely overperformed the expectations of what they were expected to. Then they went to Star Series, finished 5th through 8th. IM Katowice, they finished 7th through 8th. And then here now at WESG, they're going to finish with a 17 to 22 placing. So for me, this is super interesting because when you talk about teams going through slumps, I think every team at some point that we've seen at the top level has gone through it. Obviously, for Fnatic, we had like a whole year and a half basically where they just weren't as good as they were in late 2015 and the summer of 2015. We've seen Virtus Pro obviously dip in form massively since kind of the E-League Major in Atlanta in 2017. We've seen Astralis, they're kind of in a little bit of a slump right now and have been kind of streaky ever since Device got his injury. We've seen, every top team basically is the point I'm getting at, have some sort of dip in form. So if you're going to ask me if you should be worried about SK, I'm going to tell you no, because they've just made a roster change with Bolts, and I realize they've had some good time, and they did prepare to play with him. They didn't prepare to play at the major, with Phelps. They practiced with Bolts the whole time, everything, using Phelps just as a stand-in, and I get it. I get that there is room for some concern because, they've been preparing kind of for this moment or these events for almost 3 months and have struggled. There's no doubt about that they've struggled. They've underperformed, whatever you want to say. But I don't think that there's really room to be worried because, like all good teams, eventually they will rise in form. And for me, it could be as simple as next event for SK. Obviously they have the Pro League going on right now. They're playing Pro League matches fairly consistently, and that is a good way to get some official matches in and get some more experience with the new lineup because, again, even just switching one player will change the dynamic of the team in some cases, and I certainly think that it has a little bit. I know Bolts was kind of just brought into the team to be the role that Phelps couldn't play on the team, which generally speaking would make the transition smoother, I think, but I'm willing to give some leeway. I mean, I think Fallen is a very smart player, obviously one of the best oppers and in-game leaders in the world, and definitely the best combination of the two. And for me, it's just about, can they figure out how to fully get Bolts in and get this lineup working and grinding towards being the best team in the world again? Because, I mean, I think right when they got Bolts, kind of in that honeymoon period, they were still the best team in the world. They did still have the placings. I mean, obviously, they win Blast Series. They win the Pro League Finals. I mean, these are two huge events that they won with Bolts on their lineup, and it's like, clearly the system can work. There's just some sort of lapse in, I don't know if it's a lapse in judgment maybe, or a lapse in just, poor strat calling, or again, even just individual players being in random slumps. And there's no way to necessarily tell for sure, because we obviously don't know the whole story. We don't know all the comms. We don't know what the chemistry is like with Bolts now. But I think it's certainly viable that we're going to see SK back on top very soon. As someone who watches CSGO very consistently, I would say without a doubt that SK is definitely primed to continue their form very soon. I mean, I think, they'll play through the Pro League. They'll play through the Pro League, make the Pro League Finals, because, of course, they're playing in NA, so they should have a very easy ride. And then, after that, they've got ECS Season 5. But besides those two things, they really don't have an event coming up pretty soon. I mean, they have, in about a month, they'll have DreamHack Masters over in Marseille, France. But that's almost a whole month for them to just play online official matches, just try to figure everything out, get back to that form that they were in before, which I think they can, because obviously, they're such a good team on paper, and they already have the results from just 3 or 4 months ago to prove that they can be the best team in the world. I think that we're going to see a really, really good event from them at Marseille in April. I think that by the time we get to this event, they'll have everything figured out. Obviously, that event is going to be a really good one with some of the teams that have, been invited, because, of course, it is an event where you can only get in by invitation. It's an invitational, right? So you've got Astralis going, Cloud9 going, FaZe, G2, Gambit, Liquid, Navi, NIP, SK, Fnatic, Mousesports, and then Tyloo did qualify because they did an invitation for the team that wins a qualifier. So I guess technically it's not a full invitational. There is a qualifier from Asia, but point being, they are in prime position now, or in prime, I should say, like time almost. Like this is their time to now prepare, to get everything ready to go out in April and show that they are still one of the best teams in the world. Because until April, we really won't know for sure outside of online official matches against NA teams. And, frankly, at least for me, when you're playing in an NA Pro League like ESL or ECS, you're not going to play the highest competition. I mean, there's 3 or 4 other teams in NA Pro League, I think, that I would consider decent competition. Obviously Cloud9 and Team Liquid, 2 of the top 10 teams in the world. Renegades, arguably a top 10 team in the world. I'd probably have them more top 15 than top 10, but you could certainly make a case for Renegades. So those are 3 really good teams. And then you've got the new Optic lineup, who is still figuring things out on their own, but look primed to be in a really good position going forward as well. So overall, I think you shouldn't be worried about SK's levels right now. I mean, there's clearly a dip in form of some kind, but They've now got a whole month to prepare for their next LAN, which of course again is DreamHack Marseille, which begins April 18th. If you did enjoy this episode of the TopFrag podcast, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, come interact with me on Twitter at BrendoTGB. That's BRENDOTGB. And if you have any email or business inquiries or want to even be a part of the show, email me. Anything at chavebrendan11@gmail.com. That's CHAVEBRENDAN11@gmail.com. Thank you guys all so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.